had to ask myself, would I do it again? Would I go through this pretty extreme stress, a lot of work and practice, and going to an experience that you have no idea what to expect?
Yeah.
And then coming out with 10 grand, like, was it worth it? And 100% it was worth it.
Well, hello there, Pitches. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Pitched. I'm your host, Angie Trueblood, a podcast guesting and hosting expert and the founder of the Podwise Group, a concierge podcast interview booking agency. If you are an OG listener of the podcast, welcome back, my friend. Thank you for your support over the years. If you happen to be new, it is so good to meet you. I would love to know where you heard me from. So definitely connect with me over on LinkedIn at Angie Trueblood. Shoot me a message and say, Angie, this is where I found your podcast. This is how I was first introduced to you. That would make my day. And thanks for spending some time with us. I hope you love the podcast. So today's episode is so fun. It is the story of my friend, Joy Hoover, who is the founder of ESOES Cosmetics, pitching for and landing a spot on Entrepreneur's equivalent of Shark Tank. Their show is called Elevator Pitch, and she was gracious enough to take us through the beginning of pitching to be on the show and also taking us behind the scenes of her on-camera pitch to the investors. So I know you're going to love it. It was so fun to record and ask her all the questions. But before we dig in, per usual, it is time for our podcast Love of the Week segment. Now, this week's podcast has been a favorite of mine for many, many years. It is the Build a Better Agency podcast hosted by Drew McClellan. Now, Drew is an expert in coaching agency owners in how to grow, scale, and maintain their business. Myself, as a service provider who has evolved into an agency owner, was attracted to the podcast years ago. And even now, I'm at a point where I have been referring people on my team to his show, specifically my bookkeeper and accountant. I referenced one of the terms that he uses when he discusses agency profitability. He calls it AGI to her because I would like us to start calculating that metric within our business. So if you are a service provider who is looking to morph into an agency, or if you're already an agency owner, or like many of our clients, if you serve agencies, this show is such an inside peek at how to grow an agency and really how agency owners think. So hop on over to Build a Better Agency podcast. I recommend starting with the January 1st, 2024 episode. It's one of his solo episodes. Drew actually releases a solo episode every month, and then the rest of the episodes are interviews. But this episode was really nice going into the new year because it was focused on what agency employees said in a large survey that he conducted will make them stick around longer. So it's really around employee retention, which was so helpful. So pop on over to Build a Better Agency podcast and give it a listen. Okay, I am so excited to introduce you to our guest today, Joy Hoover. As I mentioned before, she is the CEO and founder of ESOES Cosmetics, which happens to be the first ever patented personal safety cosmetics line. Now, they have a flagship product, which is actually a lipstick, and it is designed to help women who are caught in violent encounters or stuck in situations where they suspect their drink might have been spiked. The lipstick holder, it does have lipstick, but it also has a button that when activated connects to an app to send customized communications to loved ones or to police to get help. And inside the holder are also 2 test strips that can be dipped into a drink to check for the presence of benzodiazepine, or roofies, as you might be more commonly familiar with them, which is often used in date rape crimes. So I love the mission behind Joy's company. It is a passion of hers over years and years in the nonprofit space, candidly. She has been in the safety activism space for over 14 years, and she is a champion for social justice, creating systemic change while cultivating resources and solutions. So, one, I love her mission. Two, it made my reality television loving heart very happy because I got to ask all the questions of what it's like to film something like this. And three, for you, it included the story of several pitches. So she talks about the series of events that led up to her pitching to be a contestant on the show, then her actual pitch to be on the show, and then the pitch while she was on the show. So there is lots of goodness and examples within this one story. I want you to pay close attention to some of the takeaways that stood out to me. The confidence and the passion with which she shows up during this conversation, that is how she shows up all the time. And I think it is a through line into why she has been so successful and why her pitches tend to be successful. We talk about it a little bit during the episode, and really as it pertains to her standing out in a crowd and being able to create a memorable image when she meets someone. Listen to that, though, and think about whether that is how you show up, if it's with the same amount of passion and the ability to be remembered as she does. We'll talk about it a bit more after the conversation. So just kind of put a little feather in your cap on that one. All right, well, I think it's time. Let's get to it, my friend. Joy, I am so excited to chat with you about your experience on Entrepreneur Elevator Pitch. This has been a long time coming.
Yes, it has. Had to wait a little bit.
Yeah. Well, because at first I knew you were in the running. I think you had teased it on LinkedIn and then you had recorded it, but it hadn't gone live. And I was like, no, I want to wait till it's live before we talk about it.
Exactly. Yeah. And these things always take time. So patience is the key. Well, I don't think most founders are that patient.
No, never. I'm like, can we do this now? All right. So for listeners who might not be familiar with elevator pitch, can you share a little bit about the show and what it is to begin with?
It's really like a Shark Tank kind of platform, but there's an added level of kind of difficulty and stress to it because you have to have your pitch in 60 seconds. They give you not even a second over. And you have to be able to basically woo the celebrity judges in 60 seconds when you hit the top floor of the elevator to open or to basically say, nope, we're sending you back down. And you have like huge cameras in your face. This is not just like you're just in an elevator saying your speech. It was a lot of prep and a lot of practice to get that 60 seconds right.
Well, how did you even know it existed? Because I was unfamiliar with this show. And then when I went back to look, there's tons of episodes available.
I was new to it as well. I had went to kind of an investor event. One of my investors was on a panel and they brought in kind of big venture capitalists from all over the US into Vegas. And they were all talking about like the different things that they were doing. And one of the VCs was like, oh, and I'm doing this show. He like just briefly mentioned it. And I was like, oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
And then I ended up pitching that panel really last minute. So we can talk about that because there's basically like 3 pitches to get to the real big.
Okay. So once you knew it existed, then what? Because there's multiple pitches, which I love. Talk to us about getting on there even.
So at that event, I went again just to like listen. So it was supposed to be all these venture capitalists coming to share about their insights on founders and investing and all the things that are really good to hear. Sometimes those events, let's be honest, are a bit of a waste of time. So I didn't have huge high hopes for it, but I also wanted to support our investor that was on the panel. And after the whole event, which was amazing information, they go, well, we have a little bit of time left. And there's a lot of founders in the room. So does anyone want to pitch us? Does anyone want to take 60 seconds? At that point, I had never done a 60-second pitch. I'd done 3-minute, 5-minute, 10-minute, never 60 seconds.
Okay.
But they're like, does anyone want to pitch us? And so my investor who was like on the panel raised her hand. She goes, can I like volunteer someone to pitch first? And they're like, well, don't you want her to like
feel comfortable?
Yeah, like raise her own hand. And she goes, oh, she will, but I want her to go first. And so I'm like, okay, girl, like, let's do this. So I like stand up. I'm not really checking the time very well because I'm just, I'm in a room with all these people. I have 0 seconds to prepare, right? And I stand up and I do my pitch. I run out of time in this specific one, but he goes, you're at 60, but finish up. And I'm like, okay. He gave me a little bit more time. So I finish up and everyone's kind of like, whoa. Because obviously my topic it's intense, right? It's direct facilitated sexual assault. It's very personal to me. I talk about our product. I talk about the loss of my mother. And like, it's pretty heavy. So the whole room's kind of silent staring at me. And he goes, okay, so who do you want to pitch to? Who of these people do you want to talk to now that's on the panel? And I'm like, all of you. And he goes, you can't do that. You can't. And I was like, okay.
Like in a one-off, like they were asking, who would you want to go have like a one-off conversation with?
Yeah, they were basically like, who do you want that pitch to go to? Is there anyone on this panel that you would want to be your VC or that you would want to invest in you? And so this one guy, Jonathan Hong was his name. He was the one who had briefly talked about that he invested in 100 companies, a lot of CPG, because a lot of people don't invest in consumer product goods, right? And there was a few things that he said that was, interesting. He also had mentioned that show, which again, at that point, I hadn't even like looked it up to see like, what is this show?
Yeah.
So I said him and he goes, interesting. And he's like, honestly, I want to hear more. And I think there's a few other people that might want to hear more as well. So how about after this, get my card, reach out to me with your deck and let's talk. And I was like, okay.
So did you talk to him at the event or did you reach out after?
Right after the event, I went right up to him. I was like, hey, can I get your card? Thanks so much. He's like, yeah, totally. Shoot me an email. That night, I emailed him because like, you shoot your shot. You don't want to miss it.
Yeah.
My philosophy is always shoot your shot and follow it through until like you hit a dead end or until you hit the target, basically.
Yeah.
That night, I emailed him. I sent over our deck. I said, thanks so much. It was a Friday night. Monday morning at 7 a.m., I got an email back from him. Not only one email saying thanks for the connect, but an intro email to Entrepreneur Elevator Pitch producers.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Were you like losing your mind?
I was like, what? And over the weekend, I had looked it up a little bit. I was like, what is that show? I'd never even heard of it. And then that's what too, when I saw, I was like, oh my God, there's 9 seasons of this show? Like, how come I never heard of this?
I know.
Right? And like CeeLo Green, there's some big people that are on it too. Mark Randolph, who's the co-founder of Netflix. So I was like, oh, okay, this is legit. This is Entrepreneur. So literally pulls me into this conversation with Entrepreneur Elevator Pitch. And they reached back right away too.
Okay.
Hey, can we jump on a call with you? We want to do an interview, a pitch with our producers. And I was like, sweet. Yeah, like I'm available. 2 days later, I jump on a call with the producers. And again, it's shoot your shot, right? So I show up, all of these pitches, I show up in my hat, in my outfit, ready to go. And I get on and they start asking me all these questions. And this one guy is like, super interested. I'm like talking. And at the end, he goes, got to be honest with you. I'm like waiting for the bad news.
Yeah.
It's going to be really hard for our producers to say no to you. And I was like, okay.
Yeah.
That's good news. That's great. So they asked a few more questions and then they basically recorded it, took my pitch to them, to all the rest of their producers.
Okay.
And then like, gosh, it wasn't long. It was a week and a half later, I get an email and they're like, congratulations, you're on the show.
Holy shit.
Right? So this all happened 2 weeks ago. I was like at this random event, the ones that I go to all the time that don't always produce much. It's in Florida. This was the end of July. So shooting is the first weekend of September. we need you out here by this date, by this time. Let us know when you get your flight. For weeks, it was like, show us what you're going to wear, show us different outfit changes. I mean, it was like a whole thing to produce.
It's really interesting for me to hear the idea that you knew exactly how to show up. Has this evolved? Because you're super on brand. You've got the hat, you've got the whole persona of SOS, and it very much matches the brand. Has this evolved over time, or was there an incident where you were like, oh, shoot, I had this opportunity and I wasn't quite ready for it?
One of my biggest strengths as a founder is actually marketing and branding.
Okay.
I'm a third-time founder. My first previous two were a nonprofit, so a little bit different. But what I learned very quickly in either connecting with our clients or connecting with donors or individuals in our community is show up ready anytime, whether you're dropping your kids off at school. I mean, my friends are always like, you're literally always ready. I'm like, 100% I am. I'm not going to miss an opportunity that comes. When the universe provides, I'm going to be ready. Like,
I
I'm
love
here.
that.
Right?
Yeah.
And honestly, my background is fashion and cosmetology. So I also like getting ready. It's kind of like getting ready for me for the day is almost an activation of preparing myself for like the day.
Yeah.
But I will say in hair school, one of the things I learned from a lot of the celebrity stylists in hair school is always be ready. And we wore all black in hair school. That was the thing you had to do. I started doing a lot of like photo shoots and different like events with my team or other things. And I was like, wear all black, show up here. We're going to do all this. And I started really seeing how much attention that grabbed from people. And obviously I'm not in all black. I'm in all black plus pops of color. So people are really like, who is this girl? Right. It's definitely bode me well. And the hat, it is literally our SOS branding.
Yeah.
The hat piece, I either wear hats and headbands. I have for literally 10 years or more. I had a friend on my, I think, 36th birthday 2 years ago who really sweetly got me a hat that she had painted and was like a lipstick and it was like really, really cute. And I was like, oh my God, that's such a thoughtful gift. But it didn't fit me right.
Right.
I didn't really wear it, but I wore my other hats. But at our launch event in October of 2022, someone that was doing a bunch of our like decor and stuff, she was like, you always wear hats. Why don't you wear them with your logo inside? I was like, oh yeah. And I had this other hat. Okay. So I asked our artist who did all of our branding to do a hat for me. And she showed up to this event with the exact branding. She was like, can I surprise you? I was like, totally. She hand painted our girl, our logo. Like,
Yeah.
that's the center hat. I have 3 now. I have 2 other artists that painted me. Other ones all SOS. But everywhere I go, I wear an SOS hat now.
Oh my God, I love it. It also made me wonder when you were in that room and they asked, does anyone want to give a pitch now?
Yeah.
Did any hands go up immediately?
A few actually did.
Okay.
Yeah.
I always wonder, like when you're that put on the spot, who really shows up?
Well, and the funny part was I was totally going to put my hand up too.
Yeah.
But my investor was like, I didn't know how many hands they were going to take. And I wanted to make sure you got the opportunity. I was like, thanks, girl. Like always looking out.
Yeah, that's someone to have on your side for sure.
Absolutely.
Okay, so you got the information. Okay, you're going to go to Florida in September and take us through. You get down there and you show up like the day of, I'm assuming. What was that like? Was it a real elevator?
It was a real elevator, but there was 2 of them. So you weren't actually going up. But
Okay.
it was very produced. It was definitely
Yeah.
reality TV.
Yeah.
I was really shocked. But it was at Brandstar Studios, which is who took over the production of it. And I like did not sleep. I was so stressed. I had been practicing this pitch. Thankfully, I did a TED Talk in 2013. And one of the things I did for that was actually to record myself saying the pitch and then played it in my ear for like a week straight.
Yeah.
All day long, as much as I could, just played it in my ear over and over and over. Obviously, I pitch SOS all the time anyways, though.
Yeah.
My elevator pitch was different than my traditional pitch.
How so?
It's just that it started a little bit differently because it was only 60 seconds. So literally, we wordsmith this. for 60 seconds,
Yeah.
we pulled out like, oh, we can't say that. It's over. It's over. It's by 61 seconds. We can't say that. Right. So we wordsmith this so tight.
Yep.
So it was pivotal that I stayed on track if I was going to get all 60 seconds. And we actually practice it with our investors. I do like a quarterly investor meetup. So I had at the meetup, I pitched it to them and then we wordsmithed it again with them. So I was like ready.
Yeah. How did you decide what to keep in the pitch? Like, how did you decide what was mission critical versus, okay, I mean, we're going to have to pull this because we don't have time?
So we always say like our test strips, we talk, about our test strips that test. Everything we wanted to be super clear. So we said
Yeah.
roofie test strips. I will usually be like benzodiazepine test strips and there's street-based benzos and pharmaceutical. Like, no, we didn't have time for
Yeah.
any of that. So I was like roofie test strips, right? So it was really just going, okay, we need to say this, but how do we take it from 10 words to literally 3 or 2?
Yeah.
And that's what everything was for us. It was like, okay, we need to hit on the app. We need to hit on the test strips. We need to hit these key components. We want to talk about my background, but we can't talk a lot about it. So the beginning was like, after serving 10,000 people who've experienced violence, I've invented and brought to market this thing. So it was like so key to like hit, but pare them way down.
And like, it's hard to have a differentiator when there's nothing on the market like it, but the key piece, like the key benefits of what this product offers.
Yeah, that was key, right? Because a customizable safety app, but our product is not easy.
No,
it's very complex, right? It's not a lipstick. It's a lipstick with tech enabled, with this customizable safety app, with roofie test strips, right? With interchangeable colors.
This is why you and Kristen have become such good friends, because you both have products that it's really hard to explain in a sentence all that it has.
Yeah, totally. Even that has helped me pare it down to like yesterday I was in an elevator and these people were at CES and people asked and I was like, I got it. And one of my investors was with me too. And she goes, holy shit, you nailed that. Like you got that. And I was like, I think the elevator pitch helped me.
Okay, so we're definitely going to link to the episode so everyone can watch it. So you're in this elevator-ish and the door is shut and you really have no idea if they're going to say yes or no.
Totally. Not like an inkling even.
Darn it. Okay.
And by the way, I pitched with 2 other women who were super amazing founders. We were all waiting in the green room together. So we're like, oh, we're sitting in this room with our competition. Like what the, so what was really cool about that, I will say, is typically when you pitch against someone, you feel like, oh, I'm going to get the edge up on this competition. Let me feel them out, right? So it's like in the beginning, it was 5:30 in the morning, by the way.
What?
Florida time. So it's 2:30 in the morning, my time. I don't even know if I slept an hour before that night. I was up like tossing and turning all night. My husband was like, let's put on meditation. And I'm like, nothing's working. Just get this over with.
Who went first of the 3 of you?
I was last.
Okay. You were last on the show too. Did they air it in the order you went in?
Yeah.
Okay. And did they come back to the green room after?
Yep.
And so were you like, oh man, that didn't take very long. She must not have gotten it.
It took forever. Like we literally were there over 15 hours. It was the longest day of my life. I swear. But the good news was in the very beginning, all 3 of us, we were all like the same age. They were later stage than I was. My evaluation was 6 million. Theirs was 20 and 40 million.
Yeah.
But we very quickly all realized, okay, I don't know if any of us are not getting down this elevator. All of us seem really like we have our shit together. It felt like the competition's steep, but maybe we're all at that level. And this was a pivotal moment. One of the producers, Brandon, the one who came in and said, I don't think they're going to be able to say no to you.
Yeah.
He came into the green room and all of us are sitting there. And meanwhile, still kind of looking around like, who's going to be, every episode, someone gets turned down. I haven't seen an episode where someone hasn't, right?
No, I went back and looked.
Right. We're all thinking like, who's going to get turned down? He comes in and he goes, you 3 are our rock stars of this season. So don't let me down. Okay. Like that.
Okay.
You would think that would scare us, but I think what it did was made us all go, oh, we're all rock stars.
Yeah, we're all going to get money.
At this point, we're waiting because there was another show and another episode also they were doing some shooting for that one too. So there was very full green room. Then it just became us three. So at that point, once the producer came in, we're all like, okay, we're friends here. We get up. We were doing like money dances. We turned on music. One of the girls who was in healthy, all about food pharmacy, healthy eating, her PR person went and got us smoothies. So we had good, something to feed our brain. And I pull out my curling iron. I'm like, you need a touch up. We all became besties. We called each other our pitch bitches the entire day.
I love it.
Yeah. And then every stage, like the green room to this other holding room, we were there. We were all practicing our pitches. Then it was just me. And they were one went in and the other went in. And then it was just me waiting and waiting and waiting all by myself.
I would die.
There's not even words how anxiety producing it was. It took me a while to recover, honestly.
Okay. So you go in, you do your pitch, and then you wait for the doors. Well, it's not really moving, right?
Yeah. Right.
Okay. And then you finish, and if it gets accepted, the doors open.
Right.
Okay. Because that's what it looks like when you watch it.
Yep.
So the doors open and you're like, oh my gosh, is that a guarantee that they're going to give you money or just that they want to hear more?
Just that they want to hear more.
Well, that's right. Yeah.
Obviously, that's the first hurdle.
Yeah.
Regardless, you're like, oh my God, yes. I didn't fly all the way to Florida, practice for weeks to just not even get to see the judges.
So then you get the longer pitch when you get in the room. Okay. Tell us about what you did differently in the longer pitch to kind of get their attention a little bit more and and answer questions that they had.
I think I really walked in to try to be myself. Everyone says this, but investors are investing in you. So tell them who you are, show them who you are. And I would say I didn't have tons of opportunity to just be myself. I mean, literally, I walked out the elevator and the second I walked out, they were like, what are your sales like? Everything on that show was not as it seemed. There was some definite editing and some evolving of the questions and things like that. So I literally had 2 seconds to walk in and they took over. The one thing that I wished is that I would have kind of taken control a little bit more to control the narrative of I wanted to make sure I said this, this, and this. But the biggest thing I wanted is just to be super open, honest, and clear about who I was and what our mission was, and to make them realize and see, I know my business. My business is my baby. I know the facts. So ask me anything, I'm ready for you.
I thought it was so clear, the conversation that you had with them before they gave you answers. To me, you nailed everything. And then you get to this point where you're asking, will you invest? You got cut off in the elevator. What was your one kind of branded question?
So funny because swear to God, I blacked out in the elevator. I literally did not remember. Did I hit it? However, I will say I started it off not with my practice pitch. I started off with my usual pitch.
Oh, shoot.
I had to pivot so quickly in my head. And that pivot afterwards, I was racking my brain. Did I get the rest of it in? I knew I didn't get. The last line was, at SOS, we say, if it's not a hell yes, it's a no. They cut it at a point that didn't actually seem like I had more. I didn't know that. I felt like it cut really abruptly, but it didn't really.
I thought it showed, because it did cut off, but
yeah, it cut me.
It was very clear that it was in the middle of a sentence.
Yeah. They didn't seem to think so, but I knew it, right? So I was like, oh, when I walked in, that's why I said in there, I was like, oh, by the way, my last line was, at SOS, we say, if it's not a hell yes, it's a no. So which investor wants to say hell yes to the lipstick revolution? That was my line.
Yeah.
So then I just said it when I got in there.
Yeah. Well, so then you have the conversation and you basically ask them who does want to do this.
Mm-hmm.
And darn it, if they didn't all say no, what was going through your head when one by one?
Honestly, I was really shocked. My goal, of course, you got to hype yourself up. So any pitch you go into, you're like, everyone's going to want they're going to be fighting over my investment, although I will say, I knew I was very early for them. I mean, we had literally started shipping product 4 weeks before I aired on the show. I even asked the producers, I was like, aren't I a little
Are you
early for
sure?
y'all? And they're like, no, like we invest at every stage. And I watch all these episodes. I'm like, no, y'all don't.
No.
Y'all don't invest at every stage.
Don't bring me on just to say no, sir.
Right. So honestly, when I was in there and pitching, I felt like they kind of focused on the lipstick a little bit more, which that's the part I didn't love. I was like, oh man, it's not about the lipstick. It's literally about the test strip and the panic button stuff, but I could only show so much on that show. I only had so much time. I wished I would have like test my drink environment. I didn't have time even to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So basically when it got to them, Mark was the first person. He said this like weird line, like, I have a saying. And I was like, what? Is that even a saying? That is so weird. But I was like, okay. And then Jonathan, remember, Jonathan is the judge who got me on the show.
Mm-hmm.
He's the one I pitched to in that other room. So I was like, you don't understand our name? What the hell? So I was like so confused by that. I was like, okay.
Have you come across that a lot?
Never.
The name?
People are confused by the name, but no investor has ever said, I'm not investing you because your name.
Well, and I thought you had a really interesting, like your explanation of it made such great sense of you kind of have to hide what it is to be effective.
Right.
Yeah.
And listen, truthfully, people who don't understand our name is because the product is not for them. They've never had to covertly carry something in their pocket to keep themselves safe, right?
Yeah.
So honestly, I got on the show. I was like, I need the woman to invest. She's going to get it. She's going to get it. She's going to understand it. She has kids, right?
Yeah.
So I was fine with those two passing. Obviously, you saw my face. I wasn't like, oh my God.
No, not at all.
I was like, okay, cool. I'm like, for sure she's going to invest, right?
Right.
And then she said no. And I was like, what is happening right now? I said way more than that. I didn't just say we have daughters. I was like, we put our 401k in this. I've been doing this 2 years full time. Like I'm a third time. I mean, I really was like, I am in Florida pitching on a TV show. Like I am not walking away with nothing. Like there's literally no way I'm walking away.
The thing that I loved about it was, and you said it earlier, you are selling yourself and you really wanted to show up as you. And when I was writing notes, it was such a human response. It was almost like, are you kidding me? Like, why wouldn't you? What?
Literally.
And I appreciated that so much because it was just such a human reaction. And she still kind of like stuck to her, what is it? Stuck to her,
I guess guns, isn't it guns?
Yes, maybe that's what it is. Yeah. So she said, no, I'm serious. No, thank you.
Yeah.
We do wish you luck though. And then you left and you go in a different elevator.
Yep.
This is where I was like, I think this is like super state. Like, did you know they were going to come over?
Literally had no idea.
Okay. So explain to the audience then what happens because they probably won't have watched it by the time this comes out.
So you get off the elevator. There's 2 elevators. You have to go out of one to go on another. It's weird because there's a set, right?
And a real elevator, probably.
It's a real elevator, actually. Yeah. It is. 2 real elevators. I get into the elevator. I walk off, but they keep me on set, which I thought was kind of weird because I'm like, well, they said no. Like, but I am in shock right now, right? Because I'm like, what the heck? This did not just happen right now. They go, we want to just ask you like a few questions. We're sorry. The producers were the loveliest humans in the world. They loved me. One of the camera guys came to me crying. He's like, my mom was a survivor. Like, what year please, like, I want to get your product. Please don't quit. I was like, you guys should all invest in me. Y'all love me so much. Like,
P.S. I'm not quitting.
Right? Oh yeah. I was like, P.S. no. And then one of the guys was like, don't change your name. I was like, I'm not changing my name. Don't worry about it. So that was really funny. But so they're like, oh, we're just going to ask you like a few questions. I was like, okay, this kind of feels weird. And literally then the producer goes, anything that happens as I'm talking to you, just go with it. So then I was like, oh, that's interesting. But they start asking me questions. I start answering. And then over the loudspeaker is Joy, come back to the elevator. And I was really shocked because I was like, what? is this? I hadn't seen this happen before ever on the show by that time.
Had it though? Because I tried to find footage and I don't know. Okay, go ahead. I don't want to spoil it for the listeners.
In season 10, there was another person that they did
Okay.
that to.
Okay.
But season 10 hadn't come out yet. So as far as
Oh,
I knew, none of the episodes that I'd seen had ever done this before. So
got it.
I was like, what is going on? Then they put me back, in the elevator, back up to them. And I get there and I was like shaking, but I was kind of mad. Like I was kind of mad. So I was
Yeah.
like, what the heck? You guys like sent me off. Now I'm back.
You're like that asshole boyfriend that like broke up.
13 hours. I'm like so tired. So it's just like this whole thing. And then, it was just right away. They were like, we were talking and we're so proud of you. That came out of their mouth. And I immediately started crying. It was like a parental.
Yeah.
We're so, like we see you.
Yeah.
We see you and we want to honor that or whatever. Well, I did know about the Amazon business grant. I did know about that because they had given it out, not calling people back.
Like while they were in there?
While they were in there, they had given it out, typically to more social impact. So I think they brought me on to give me that.
Okay.
But that's just what I think.
I mean, you did end up getting, I don't know if it's a deal. It was really a grant. Is that better?
Honestly, yes, because it's no equity.
Right.
It was all cash. And I had found out that like a lot of the shows, Shark Tank, that show, a lot of them, like only about 40% of the deals go through in the end because of due diligence and whatever, all that stuff. So it was kind of cute because the two other women that were on the show with me who got deals, I was kind of like feeling like,
like the low man. I know what you mean.
Yeah, like the juvenile, like I'm just the youngin', I'm just, and like one of them had done all that research and she goes, you get the money for sure. You're getting money. You get no equity taken out. Like this is a done deal. And
yeah, like no one's judging what you do with it or having input. That's wild.
I had to ask myself, would I do it again? Would I go through this pretty extreme stress, a lot of work and practice, and going to an experience that you have no idea what to expect?
Yeah.
And then coming out with 10 grand, like, was it worth it? And 100% it was worth it.
For sure. And probably not for the money. I mean, the experience seems to be just such like a good, like whittling space for you to hone in on so many skills that are going to take you further.
Yeah.
What about when the show came out? I mean, the 10 grand is nice, but what impact did you being on that show have?
I was super nervous of what they would show because, again, I was in that room for like over 15 minutes. My episode ended up being like 11. So they did put a lot of it in. I had no idea what they would put in or not. And I was like, oh, what if they make me look stupid?
Like an idiot. Yeah.
Literally, I've been doing media now for 14 years and I've had some amazing experiences and some terrible experiences. So my husband, of course, is like, I'd wake up in the night, be like, oh my God, what are they going to show? And he's like, babe, they gave you money. They're not going to make you look stupid. So once it came out, literally the morning it came out, I was like, it's up. And I like watched it by myself. I was just like, I don't care. I'm like watching this. And I was so happy because they did such due diligence to SOS. Like they took previous footage that I had given them. They took previous interviews. We did pre-interviews and post-interviews, and we did additional shots. Like this was like a whole production, right?
I mean, the story that they shared, it filled in gaps that I didn't know about. And listeners, you have to go watch this. We're not going to reinvent the wheel, but I thought it was a stellar showing for you.
I could not agree more. I was so thrilled. And again, I feel like I blacked out. So I wasn't sure what I said. I remembered the lipstick part. So I was like, oh, they're going to focus on the lipstick. And I want to make sure people know the device and the test strips. But they totally showed that. They showed me pushing the button. They showed me showing them that the phone call. So I felt so good about it. Right away, I knew we were going to use this for our local community.
Everything?
Yeah, totally. Right as soon as it came out, we started pitching it. myself and my friend who's in PR, we started pitching it to like the news channels. I planned our second anniversary, which is technically end of October, but I planned it around like a watch party.
Yeah.
Because people were like, I want to watch it. Like, I want to watch it. And I was like, oh, this is perfect. Because I also knew I was going to launch a crowd equity campaign to start raising money. So I was like, this is the perfect time to launch the equity crowdfunding site with this coming out.
Mm-hmm.
And so I kind of basically put it all. But if you saw, like, I also did a ton of leading up to it.
Yeah, you did.
When the season came out, which was like mid-October, I was in the trailer 3 times. Some people weren't in it at all. I was in it 3 times, and I was the photo they used to promote it. It was me and Mark, the co-founder of Netflix. So like amazing PR.
Yeah.
So cool.
Yeah.
And then we pitched it to the news and they were so excited because like, again, I've been in Vegas doing women's safety work for 14 years and I've never been on a TV show. It's not like Vegas, a ton of people come out. I look to see, like, has anyone from Vegas ever been to Shark Tank? Like, I look to see, and I didn't find anyone Vegas specific to like those shows. So I was like, oh, this could be really cool for media. And they were thrilled about it.
Do you have your eyes set on something bigger like Shark Tank at some point?
I mean, I always have my eyes set on something
bigger, right?
To be honest. Yeah. We've been reached out to by them. They found us on TikTok already. And we were in conversation with them. We need to increase our sales and do a few things. So that's definitely a goal for sure.
Okay.
I mean, I'm in the process of potential other show right now in May. I'm deciding right now if it's the right fit or not.
Mm-hmm.
But because of the experience I did have an entrepreneur elevator pitch, I'm definitely open to more because of all the things I learned. And it really builds confidence.
Yeah, for
Once
sure.
you hit something like that and you do it, you're like, okay, I think I can do it, but I don't know if I can do it. And then you're like, okay, I can get it
I
down to
did
60
it.
seconds.
Yeah.
I can get in there and answer all their questions. I can look all right on TV. Okay. All right.
Oh my God, I love it. What about investors? How are the different ways that people can support SOS? I know big investors, but also aren't there opportunities to support you at a lower level, like for individuals?
Yeah, totally. So we launched a WeFunder campaign really for this reason, because we have people on TikTok, Instagram, like people find us or the show or whatever. And they're like, how can I help? I'm not an accredited investor. I don't have, can't invest 100K. Like, what can I do? So we opened this WeFunder as an opportunity for literally anyone, 18 or older, to invest $100 or more.
Okay.
Anyone can invest if they believe in SOS. And so that has been really cool because we launched it and can kind of with the launch of the show, which was like December 14th. So we're talking, it's not even been a month since it's been out.
Okay.
And we were able to raise 50 grand from December 15th, just a few weeks, basically. We were able to raise 50 grand. And once we get the 50 grand, then that opened us up to a new level with WeFunder, where WeFunder would then share our fund with their 2.8 million investors. And we could kind of open it up public to everyone.
Yeah.
So we just opened it up public to everyone, and we're going to go into our next round, which we're hoping to raise like another 74,000.
Oh my gosh.
At least.
Okay.
Anyone can invest now in the world's first patented smart safety cosmetics.
So let's do it, friends. Let's do that.
Don't miss out on investing early stage. And you can invest $100. You can invest 5,000. I mean, as much as you want in that is like, it's a great platform. It's super, super easy for people. So it's like a good way to dip your toe into investing.
Yeah. I mean, I love it because I think so often we want to know, like, how can we make an impact in this world? And I don't have 100K to invest. So I love that this is open to people at pretty much any level.
Totally.
Share with us, Joy, where people can connect with you and learn more about SOS. We are definitely going to link to the actual pitch.
Yeah.
But I want people to stay in your world.
Yeah, and the pitch is also on our website. So everything, our refunder, our pitch,
Perfect.
everything can be found at our website, which is SOS, but it's ESOES. Shout out to you, Jonathan Hung.
I love it.
Still spelled the same way. SOS Cosmetics, ESOES Cosmetics.com. We're also on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Threads. I mean, everywhere except to X or whatever that new word. Yes, we're everywhere. Please reach out if you have questions. We're survivor led and we're survivor funded. So the other thing I love about it is people with experience, which 1 in 3 of us at a minimum have an experience with domestic or sexual violence. 90% of our investors are women and survivors. We say that we are building SOS Cosmetics by survivors for all of us.
Yeah.
And this lipstick revolution can't be won alone. So join in on what we're doing.
Oh, I love this. Thank you so much for sharing this story with us. I think listeners are going to get a lot out of it and hopefully go check out what you're doing and support you.
Yeah, that would be awesome. Thanks for the opportunity. Always love sharing. And the behind the scenes is pretty fun. So
yeah, it's exciting. Thanks, Joy. I hope you loved that conversation with Joy as much as I did. And it really parlays nicely into our podcast insider tip of the week. I know she and I talked a little bit about the hat, and you can see it because I am sharing a photo of it. But that hat to me is really a symbol that illustrates the importance of being yourself, your authentic self, and being ready to show up. So if we break this down a little bit, and I try to help you make sure that when you are pitching yourself or you have opportunities that you have earned, it's important for you to show up and be memorable as yourself. So a component of that is your appearance, right? What do you look like? Are you showing up in a way that helps the audience remember who you are? It can be your appearance, but it could also be your personality, right? I know when I show up on camera, I don't have a branded hat. I don't have a branded logo in the background. But there are certain things that I say fairly routinely that people are familiar with. Hello, pitches is one of them. But also when I'm interviewed on someone else's show, I definitely share my authentic personality. And with that comes a degree of vulnerability, of humor, right? So are there things that when you show up on other people's platforms that they can kind of pick you out of the crowd, if you will? So that's one thing I want you to think about and kind of answer to yourself. And then secondly, what I loved about Joy's example was that it was a really quick turnaround, right? She had her digital ducks in a row, if you will. She knew exactly how to pitch, what to pitch. She wasn't really scrambling. Yes, she was practicing, but she wasn't having to pull together a whole lot of things. She knew exactly how to show up and ask for what she wants. So that's my question to you. If you were to land a rock solid opportunity, maybe it was an interview on someone's podcast that you know had a lot of reach in front of your ideal client, and let's say they wanted to record next week and then publish the week after that. Are you ready for that? Do you have talking points and stories queued up that you would want to share with listeners? Do you have a place to drive them to where you can capture the people that are interested as potential leads? Can you handle the influx of business? Or do you at least, if you're not able to handle it right now, do you have a process in place to not lose the impact of that opportunity? Because if you can't, you actually are not going to show up as confidently as you would if you knew you had a system in place and if you knew you were ready. I see a lot of times people sometimes wait to pitch themselves until they feel ready. And I see both sides of the coin. You want to be able to show up if a big host asks you to record next week. You want to have all of those ducks in a row. But then often I also see the flip of that to where, well, just put yourself out there. And if a really big podcast host that has a great engaged audience says yes, you're going to get your act together and pull all of those things together. In this episode, though, with Joy, what I loved was that she was ready to go. She didn't need to go back to square one and really get her ducks in a row. They were there and ready. So I would err on the side of be ready. Like, don't wait to pitch yourself until you're ready. But while you are pitching yourself, start getting those behind the scenes things ready. Your website, if you're collecting email addresses, if you have a calendar that you want people to schedule on, make sure that it is up to date and that people can actually go and schedule. So I hope this is helpful for you, both from the be yourself, be that authentic person when you interview, but also when you pitch. Use your personality in the pitches because that is who hosts want. When I read a potential pitch for my show, I want it to feel like I am reading about a person and really figuring out what their personality is before I give them an answer. That's my tip for you. Be yourself and be ready to show up. Now, if you found this episode to be helpful, I have a favor to ask you, and it's probably not why you think I'm asking. Would you please hop on over to the podcast player that you are currently listening to me on and share what you loved about this episode in a review? I am not actually convinced that reviews help people find our show, but I do know that it helps me to double down on what you love. So, especially since we have changed the format and the focus of the show over the last few months, your input is very, very valuable. So, if you can hop over, leave a review, and tell me what you love about the Pitched podcast, I would heart you forever. Okay, friend, that is it for this episode. Until next time, be well, be visible, and go get pitched. Thanks for listening to this episode of Pitched. If you would love to get pitched to be a guest on podcast, we here at the Podwise Group would love to help you. We offer 2 primary services to support our clients in landing and converting podcast interviews. Whether you want to handle the pitching yourself or you'd like our team to do it all, hop on over to our site, thepodwisegroup.com/services to check out how we can help. If one of them suits your fancy, you can schedule a time to connect with me right there. I am so looking forward to connecting with you.